going to show you how to properly mask using your stamps. Today I am working with a sugar plum stamp that is a bench, and then also one of my favorite magnolia stamps, which is our Tilda, who is actually sitting down. I am using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, which is my choice of ink. I usually use Copics to color all of my images for my cards and for my scrapbooking pages, so it works very well with an alcohol-based marker. I am using Canson 90-pound watercolor paper. Generally, my favorite two papers to use are Canson 90-pound or Canson 120. Some ladies like to use some other brands, and that's perfectly fine. It's just more of what you prefer, and I do prefer watercolor paper. I just think that it blends very well with the Copic markers. I love the texture and the feel of the paper, which is why I use that one. So the first thing I just need to do is I attached my Tilda to the acrylic block that I'm using, and I used to only like to use wooden stamps, but then when I started doing more masking, I started to prefer the acrylic because then you can actually see what you're doing inside whenever you're working on the card. So I'm just going to ink up the Tilda stamp with my black tuxedo ink. Make sure I get enough on there. I am going to stamp down my Tilda first. And this is actually the Tilda that I'm going to use to color in with my Copic. So then, ahead of time, I took out one of the same exact Tildas. I cut it out, and I usually leave a kind of like a bubble around the top of the head so that I can lift it. At the bottom, I just make sure it's very exact around the feet, because that's usually where I tend to line them up. And on the back, I just put a little bit of sticky tape, whatever brand of adhesive you use, and you can kind of use it over and over again. Now, on my blog, you'll see that I show a picture of how I store my magnolia stamps and all of my masks. I actually put them in the same album, and then I can flip through and find what I need. My masks go back to where I had them, and I can use them over and over again. Great way to recycle, great way to keep everything neat and in one place. So I'm simply going to take my mask, I'm going to line it up at the bottom where the feet are, and it's directly over the image that I just stamped. It's okay that it flaps up a little bit, it'll be fine when I go to press down the other stamp. So then I simply just switch out. And some people, you have several acrylic blocks. I have maybe about 4 that I keep in about 4 different sizes, and I kind of rotate through those. I don't have, several like some folks do. So I do have to switch mine out. So then I just want to ink up my bench from Sugar Plums. And again, my Sugar Plum stamps, a lot of them I use are people, just like the Magnolias. They just look a little different. I love using them, and of course they're background items. And those come from CC Designs. And then the Magnolia stamps, they come from a company in Sweden, but I do buy them at various retailers. There's a couple local scrapbooking stores in North Carolina here where I live, and then also online as well. And I have a wide variety of different ones. So for me to stamp my bench, of course I put it on the acrylic block, and I'm going to actually, because the rubber part extends here, but the actual top of the stamp is there, I'm going to move it up just a little bit higher to make sure that it does, in fact, land with her sitting on the bench. So I'm going to actually take it a little bit further up than that dark black line there, and that dark black line is just from places that I've stamped before when I've used this mask ahead of time. So a little higher, I'm going to lay the stamp down and then lift up, okay, and then I'm going to take my mask off, and it appears as though Tilda is sitting on the edge. Now, as you'll see, this one had her feet are dangling down, and then her arms, and her legs and her bottom are sitting on the bench. Now, you could actually do it a little higher and make her look like she's sitting at the very top of it, or you could leave it where it is. It's kind of a personal preference, but either way, it shows it makes it look like she's sitting there. And then you can go in and color, and you can add other accessories in the background and grass and whatnot. But that's pretty much it with masking. You just need 2 or 3 or 4 stamps of your choice, and for each stamp, you would have your mask that you're going to build upon. The trick to it, though, is whichever item you want up front is the one that you want to stamp first. So, of course, I wanted Tilda up front, so she was the very first image that I stamped on the paper, and then everything else that I would want behind her in the real-life picture is actually going to go on top of that mask. So for instance, there have been times where I've masked more than one thing. So let's say I wanted her in the bench, and then let's just say I wanted a tree in the background as well. Well, I want my tree, over here somewhere. So what I would do is I would put down my mask with tilde, then go back and put down a mask of just the little bench, and I do have a couple of those too, and put it down, and then stamp the tree last over on this side. And then, of course, I would take the tree off, and the tree would look like it's over here behind the bench, and then take the bench off, take tilde off, and then it would have the tree there. So you can use it in a variety of ways. A great way to use accessories like pumpkins and apples and anything that you want a large quantity but to look like they're stacked. I hope that's helpful. Tells you a little bit about masking and a couple of tips. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or leave a comment on my blog, and I'd be more than happy to try to help you understand a little bit more about masking or just stamping in general. Thanks so much, and happy scrapping.